This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is being powered once again by Kolossal Games, who has a new game launching to Kickstarter on July 31st. Recently, the Blue player, who is Robert Getzling, did a how-to-play video. This time for the upcoming game from Kolossal Games, Terrors of London, a deck-building game set in a horror-filled world where players control an overlord and fight over control of London against their opponent. Click the link in the show notes to find out how to play Terrors of London from Kolossal Games, and then go ahead and check out the Kickstarter page on the 31st of July and back it if you dare. If you're subscribed to our mailing list over at GameRelief@GameReliefGo.com, you may have already heard or seen of this episode, but we're going to give you this content because not a lot of people open the email, but it was sent out to you if you're on that subscribe list. And if you want to listen to great content like this before your friends, make sure you subscribe to our mailing list over at GameReliefGo.com, kind of like Pokemon Go, but GameReliefGo.com. Now, on to the awesome, wonderful interview that I had with the creator and mastermind behind Totally Medieval.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
It's time for you to claim your place as the commander of an army. Choose your champions, the Viking Berserkers or Knights Templar. Wage battle against Mongolian hordes and samurai warriors. Survive their attacks and the undiscovered trail of treacherous territories. Discover new terrain that can strengthen your army or tear you limb from limb. Each location holds a unique ability that will aid you in your journey or slow down your progression. The forest allows you to hunt for food and provides you with cover, while the hot desert could send your army crawling home. Also, brave commander, take heed of the weather. Mother Nature may look kindly on some, but others could face death and destruction. On your journey, you will clash with opponent armies, and there can only be one victor. Choose your path wisely, Commander, for you may find yourself walking into a trap. If you face mortal combat with your opponent, you must remember these factors: weather, terrain, illness, strength, and preparation. Yes, on your journey, your army may be infected. Those who are sick could infect your entire army. Calculate each factor wisely, for you must be prepared for anything. As you defeat each of your opponent's armies, you inch closer to their home. Their base provides them with additional strength, fortification, and healing. Think you're prepared for conquest? If you choose to band together, you must battle an adversary who desires to destroy your kingdoms and wipe you both from the map. This adversary has no commander, no loyalties, and if left undefeated, will swarm the lands. But be wary, Commander, for although your opponent can call a truce, they may break it just as easily. Then you will face more than you ever expected. Aid us in this adventure, and your army will be well rewarded.
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me neither, but that is the story of Totally Medieval, the epic adventure. And tonight we're lucky enough to have on Zack, the creator and mastermind, or perhaps somewhere in line with that. Is that correct, Zack? Is that how you fall in line, or did somebody else make it, or come up with the initial idea, or how did that go into play?
Oh yeah, if you want the long story, I'll try to make it short. It was actually my 5-year-old son at the time. He came up with the basic idea of the game. He saw me create games, and so he wanted to create his own. And so at 5 years old, he started putting together this game, and he was really into knights and dragons. So I helped him a little bit, put it together. He was able to get the regular gameplay together. And for Christmas, 5 years ago, I actually printed him his own edition of the game for his Christmas present. He loved it. And ever since then, he's been begging me to finally produce it. And so over the last 5 years, we've slowly taken all parts and pieces to get, taken them apart, put them back together. And now we have a fully functioning game for all ages.
Oh, well, that's awesome. Well, that's awesome. Well, before we get into that much further, let's rewind a little bit. We don't have to go back too terribly far, of course, unless you were born into tabletop board games and playing them. But how did you get started into playing tabletop board games, Zach?
Well, I got a funny story for you. So back when I was in high school, I used to play Magic the Gathering, Risk, a few other tabletop games, a few other card games. And my mom actually really disliked Magic the Gathering. And so she negotiated with me. I wasn't able to get my driver's license until I hit certain things I was supposed to do, actually, namely get my Eagle Scout. And she actually negotiated with me if I got rid of my cards, my Magic the Gathering cards, the original set. I have a binder full of all the originals, or a lot of the originals. And if I got rid of them, I could drive early. So my priorities, I was 16 years old. I wanted to go on dates. I wanted to drive. So I sold them. I got rid of all my cards, started driving. But then a few years later, I went off to college and I found out that, I had a class assignment that the assignment was to create a product that would change the world. And I knew that most kids did not like the public schools, did not like schooling, education. They wanted to leave reality whenever they could. At the same time, parents didn't really like the games that are out there. So I thought, hey, I could solve both issues by putting them together and creating a game unlike other educational games, but also not like fantasy games. Putting the two issues together, I created a game that's very similar to like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, with the gameplay of Risk, but fused with people from history. And that game is Historical Conquest. We've now sold over 18,000 copies of it. Last year, I went full-time doing it. Now, I actually started in college 15 years ago. And after I spent 10 grand on printing it, I had just gotten married, and my wife said, put away the game and go get a real job. So I had to. So about 10 years later, I brought it back out, and that was it. I was actually teaching some kids about entrepreneurship. They wanted to see what I produced. They were really into Magic. So they started playing the game. They got hooked in it. They wanted more. And in order for me to get them more, I had to get partners, investors, and such. And that was the start of it. And it was a side job because I worked for the state of Alaska, working a dream job where I got to travel the whole state. And then I moved down to Missouri so my wife could go back to school. And when she went back to school, I became the stay-at-home dad, where I was able to do my thing still part-time, but take care of the kids as well. And then finally last year was the first year we did it full-time.
Are you intrigued yet? I know I am. I can't wait to see how it went down with Zach going full-time. But just like you, I'm going to have to wait as well because now it's time for...
What is this place? What is it doing here in the Leaves computer? Oh, it's Kickstarter Corner with the Leaves.
Oh, it's Kickstarter Corner with the Leafs. Oh, sorry, were you listening? Yeah, sorry. I like how Princess Leaf does that better. I shouldn't sing along, should I? Anyways, let's get on with Kickstarter Corner, shall we? So we can get back to Zach's experience. Anyways, first we've got bringing HLG Con to the next level. Will you be in Atlantic City, New Jersey, October 12th through the 14th? Or do you want to advertise with a great con? Then you'll want to check this out because High Level Games is hosting a convention in Atlantic City. We want to have the best material on hand to create an awesome experience. And this, by the time of this recording, they'll have probably around a little bit over 24 hours left to go, so you'll want to get in on this one because they're ending tomorrow, Thursday, the 26th of July at 7:23 a.m., so you better hurry and get on it. Next, we've got Crown of Aragon. It's a two-player card game of medieval intrigue and conquest that can be played in 15 minutes. seize the crown. We did a preview and as well as an interview with the creator James a while back ago. We really liked the game. I'm not sure if they'll fund. I hope they do. If they don't, I hope they relaunch. So watch for Getting Geeky with Gamer Life, because we'll be sure to let you know if it relaunches, because we love this game. But if you liked what you heard or you've seen the Kickstarter page, go back it so you can help this become a reality. Next is Elite Dangerous Battle Cards at ED Battle Cards. It's a 2-player expandable card game based in the Elite Dangerous galaxy. And this one ends on this Saturday, the 28th of July. They have funded, they're well over their goal, and they still got a couple days to go. So make sure you get in and check out this one from Spider-Mind Games. Had both the creator and the publisher on the other day, so go back and listen to our interview if you want. And if you missed Monday's episode, you're in for a treat. Go back and listen, as we had Vince from Lucky Duck Games on to talk all about Jetpack Joyride. Jetpack Joyride is a real-time, but not timed, competitive puzzle game of epic proportion based off the application you may have come to know and love. And they're going through next Tuesday, the 31st of July. They're well on their way to over 100,000. Right now, they're at 95,000 a couple days ago when I recorded this, and there's still time to go. So definitely check out Jetpack Joyride from Lucky Duck Games. Next, are you into yoga? Well, with the Sonic Kids, learn yoga and mindfulness while playing. Yep, do yoga poses, align the Krakens, help the princess to get rid of their bad emotions before they block them. They end next Wednesday, so about a week. So make sure if you like this thing that you go check it out and back it so we can help it become a reality as well. Next, over 400% funded is Kingdoms of Erden. King of the Mountain, Dwarven expansion, which we had him on the show a while back ago, and this game looks fantastic. You collect faction members and dominate the mountain in this fantasy set collection strategy card game. Ages 10 plus, 2 to 5 players, 15 to 45 minutes, and they've got just over a week. Yeah, because they're ending next Friday, the 3rd of August. Next, you may have seen this one, you may have heard of it. We did both a review of the game, of the first edition, as well as had the creator on the show a while back ago to talk all about Clustered 2nd Edition, a strategic card game that's now on Kickstarter. You battle your opponents by placing cards with matching attributes next to each other. Can you out-strategize everyone to win? I guess you'll have to find out. This project has overfunded, and they're still going for another, just over a week. Yeah, they're ending next Thursday, the 9th of August. Yeah, so definitely check out Clustered 2nd Edition, a strategic card game, now on the Kickstarters. Next, we've got Incoming Transmission, cooperative sci-fi pixel board game. Yep, Incoming Transition is a 16-bit inspired cooperative puzzle game for 2 to 5 players in 10 to 30 minutes by the designer of Fire of Eidolon. Guess what? If you stay tuned, we'll be able to hear myself, Gamerleaf, sit down with both the designer and the publisher of this great game coming up later on this week. So, Friday-ish? Yes, sirree, Bob. And so definitely check that out. If you want to just go over to the page, the Kickstarter page, you'll definitely want to see it. If you're old school and like retro stuff, or you like nostalgia, definitely check out their box, their game box. It reminds me so much of the Super Nintendo game box. And they have pixelated meeples, yes sirree, Bob. So definitely check out Incoming Transmission, cooperative sci-fi pixel board game. And then, are you into role-playing games? Well, Dungeon Delve #2, Dungeons of the Dread Worm. It's a fantasy role-playing module for 1st or 2nd edition D&D, BECMI, D&D, OSRIC, DCC, Pathfinder, Labyrinth Lord, Swords and Wizardry, or other OSR games. Yeah, definitely check this one out. They're over 300% funded. They were going for 1,000, and they're close to 4,000, so they're getting up there, and they're still a long time to go. They're ending on the 19th of August. So if you like role-playing games, definitely go ahead and check out Dungeon Delve. Number 2, Dungeons of the Dread Worm on Kickstarter. Well, ain't nobody knows what happened. Some says it was a plague started by them commies. Others claim it was the wrath of God. My favorite theory is the one about the moonshine and the corn sap beetles. See, back in the old days, the prohibition was on, so there weren't no legal hooch. It was all shine runners from up in the hills brewing their white lightning, and I'm pretty sure that somebody somewhere did some experimenting on corn sap beetles, and they escaped the lab and went and infected all the corn they could find. Infected corn made infected moonshine, and infected moonshine made dead people. See where I'm going with all this? Millions of God-fearing people dead, and quicker than a jackrabbit. You got one of them there apocalypses on your hand. That is the backstory. Tune in next time for the where, and later on the who, and we'll give you stories a little bit each time, every other episode, about a new game on Kickstarter called Moonshiners of the Apocalypse, which is a not-so-cooperative board game for 2 to 4 players set in post-apocalyptic world where there's a twist. Ages 14 and plus, and 2 to 4 players, 60 to 120 minutes. Definitely check out this one and stay tuned for our story coming in another 2 episodes. Last but not least is another great gem that recently launched to Kickstarter in Villains and Henchmen. Villains and Henchmen is a board game for 1 to 4 players where you get to be the bad guys. Definitely check out this one on Kickstarter. It looks really fun. Yep, you can solo on this game. It's 1 to 4 players. Takes about 60 to 75 minutes, ages 12 and up. It looks really cool, the artwork and whatnot, and you know what's even cooler, like I just said, you get to be the villain in this game. Definitely check it out on the Kickstarters. It's going through Sunday the 19th of August, so you still got a while to get in on it, and they're about, a little bit shy of a third of the way through it or whatnot. They're at 3,000 out of 10,000. So definitely check it out on Kickstarter. And next you know, you might be a villain or you might be a henchman. Depends on how you do in this game. Check it out on Kickstarter anyways. Now back to our story all about Zack going full time.
And it's going gangbusters now. We've got employees. We have games coming out all the time. And so... yeah, that's my story.
Oh, wow. That's interesting because I remember you tried to do the Historical Conquest 2.0, but ended up canceling that. So how did that all go down? So you're doing a lot better with part 1, but not 2.0. But part 1's propelled you into full-time game creation and publishing and whatnot?
Actually, this was a funny step because when we did the Kickstarter, if you go on our Kickstarter, you'll actually see that it has like a 2-player set, a 4-player set, and a 6-player set. Altogether, printing all those, we were using Panda Manufacturing. It would have been over $100,000 to produce all those pieces, and they did not get the estimates before we started the Kickstarter. We put our Kickstarter, I think it was like the 40,000s, and so at that point we decided, we need to totally change the whole aspect. And so this actually goes into the backstory of what I'm trying to do. My mission. Is very different than any other gaming group out there. But we decided that instead of creating a 6-player set or even a 4-player set, we would do 2-player packs. And we have 7 decks out there. So it's basically 3 2-player packs that people could buy and play, or they can buy them piecemeal. Basically, the idea behind our mission is we want to change the culture of America in 2 different ways. One, that a lot of people believe that games have to be just about fantasy, take yourself out of reality, and relax, which is great. It has a great place, and there's thousands of games out there to do that. We created a new idea. Ours is to take a game, epic in process and epic in look, And then we're going to add a bit of education in there. So our first game was fused with history. So it's been proven, that game has been proven to get kids excited about history. And it gives them so much information that people would never have any idea about. For example, if I could say one really fast.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you. A guy named Wentworth Cheswell. He was the first African-American to be elected into a legislative body. When do you think that would be?
I don't even know. Late 1900s or something, 1965, 70 something.
It was right after the American Revolutionary War.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So Wentworth Cheswell was in New Hampshire. He was elected to actually like 5 different positions in that area. And this is right after the American Revolution, which during the Revolution, he was actually the counterpart of Paul Revere. When Paul Revere went west to tell Lexington and Concord that the British were coming, Wentworth Cheswell actually rode north to get the VIPs, the John Adams, the other armies to come in. And when the British ran away from Lexington and Concord, they actually met up with a group that Wentworth Cheswell brought in, but no one ever talks about him. I've got one other one that you might find interesting. When was the first African-American senator elected into position, into the Senate, the U.S. Senate?
I don't know, around the same time maybe?
Okay, so these are things I had no clue about back in high school, and I would have never known about. It was actually right after the Civil War. And I won't have you guess this, but it was out of one of the states that people would think would be one of the most racist back then, back at the time, or back during segregation. So it was actually out of Mississippi. He was elected by a huge majority to become the first U.S. senator right after the Civil War, before segregation even began. And so so going back to the idea of what I do is, instead of just bringing people out of reality and just having fun, relaxing with a really fun game, and instead of being a cutesy little educational game, much like a lot of educational games are, and I mean no disrespect for them, they too have a place. We are basically merging the two industries together, where you can actually learn from games in many different aspects. And the one thing that really proves that this is very valuable and people are realizing this is so important right now is that most schools, you will actually see them playing apps of different games teaching education. So, but the problem with using apps in schools is that a video game only uses 1, maybe 2 senses. The more senses that you use, and I do brain studies as well. That's part of my digging deep into this niche, is brain studies show that the more you interact with the lesson plan, the more your brain will retain all the information that you're learning. And so when video games, the little apps that they're playing with, give you just 1 sense that it's teasing, physical games are tangible. You're touching them. You also have the sense of sight, and you're also interacting with a person that you're playing with constantly. And so by doing that, you're actually retaining the information that you're getting off the game. So Historical Conquest was based off of history. Now Totally Medieval actually has a component that we add in when we send it to schools. So it's different. It's a gamer's game right now. But you add another component in, and it becomes an educational tool to help kids just have fun and not feel that they're being bogged down by repetition through assessments and such.
And what's that component you added?
It's actually a component called math dice. So they're dice cards. Instead of rolling dice, you take away the dice from the Totally Medieval and you add in cards. They're almost like flashcards, but where each of them has a math equation on them. And the thought process behind there, the brain science behind there, is that as the person playing the game is playing a really fun game of anything, it could be playing Monopoly, it could be playing Life. They're playing the cards, they're playing the equation, but they're not feeling that they're being bogged down by an educational process. because the game is based, or the whole thought process is based off that one thing of I'm playing a game. And that's what the brain takes away from this whole process. So we've pushed it through to study it, to see how players interact with the cards and the equations. And it's almost not flawless, but near flawless integration into the gameplay. And there was no one that's ever patented this. So we went out and got the patent for it. So this is a patent process that we put together for this game. And come to find out, a lot of our prototypers, a lot of our beta testers started sending us pictures of them playing it with Monopoly, playing it with Life, playing it with Risk, all these different games. And all of a sudden, these dice cards are actually played with any game. And while you're playing this fun game, the equations are not overbearing in the sense of schoolwork. So you're actually getting the repetition that you get from school without really knowing it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's cool. So did that just developed over time, or how did you come up with the whole the math dice system and the cards or whatnot?
That was part of the 5 years of development, because at one point, my company started the mission of trying to make education fun and make it exciting and epic, make it adventurous. And so we had to, if we were going to bring on this new game that my son had developed 5 years ago, we had to add a component that would be educational to some extent. And so we added this part. The great thing is that you don't have to play with those cards if you just want to have a rousing game of Totally Medieval. It could take you out of reality. It'll let you relax and get away from all the school study and stuff. But if you wanted to practice a little bit of math at the same time, or if a parent wants their kids to get excited about it, they can pull them in and say, okay, we're going to play this. I'm going to play with Algebra 1, and you can play with multiplication, which you're learning. And they can play the exact same game at the same time. They each have their own deck of cards.
Well, that's awesome. So when you play with those decks of cards, regardless of what game, it sounds like you can use any game. So when you play with those decks of cards, is it randomized, or do you have do you get a hand like in a card game, like you draw 5 or something, or how does that all go down, and then you pick what cards to use, or how does that all go down? As of right now, it's much like dice, where you'd roll the die for your turn. The opposing player picks up a card. On the face of the card, it has the equation, but also has the answer. So the person that picks up the card covers it up with their finger, the answer, and then the person answers the equation. If they get it wrong, they don't get the roll. If they get it right, there's a value to that equation, and that will be your roll. That will be your dice, the number on the dice. Oh, wow, that's amazing. So they just pick up the top card and then deal with whatever equation it is. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so that's pretty cool. So, yeah, so that's the whole system or whatnot, regards to the rolling, changing instead of rolling dice or whatnot. So, and you talked a little bit about it, but word on the street is you have a new game on Kickstarter called Totally Medieval, the Epic Adventure. So besides the card system or whatnot that's in play to make it more educational, what can you tell us about this great game? Okay, so push the education aside. Totally Medieval is we call it a ever-evolving game. There's 5 phases to it. Kickstarter is just phase number 1. It's where you battle knights and Vikings. And so as you move, it's not just that you're going against your opponent. The game itself is actually against you. So to start off the game, you have 3 rectangles on your playmat right in front of you. One is your draw deck. You'll draw at the beginning of the game, you'll draw 3 cards. The middle one is actually called your homeland. Your homeland is where all of your characters begin their adventure. And in every civilization, so the Viking or the Knights deck of cards, they have their own separate deck of cards. There's one homeland in there. The Knights is a castle. The Vikings is a fortress. So these are actual people and civilizations and things in their civilizations that make up these cards. So in a deck of civilization cards,
there are 3 types of cards. There are characters. In the characters, you have 1 king, 1 queen, 2 bishops, 2 knights, and 2 rooks, and then 8 pawns. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, just like chess, isn't it?
Exactly. The configuration of all the characters in the game are actually the exact same configuration as the game of chess. So as you're playing, say you play 10 rounds of Totally Medieval, and you're like, well, I want to play chess now. You can actually take all the pieces off, put them on a chessboard, and have a rousing game of chess, and then take those people off, put them back on the game, and then play with Totally Medieval again. So it's a dual-purpose game.
Okay, awesome.
Yep. So that's the first type of card, is the character card. The second type of card is a craft card. So for the Vikings, their main craft that people think of when they think of the Vikings, they think of the Viking ships. They're called dragon ships, one of the fastest of their time, and fastest ships of their time. And that was made for quick attacks coming up to shore and raiding a village or such. And so that would be their crafts. The knights have the siege towers. Now these cards, while the characters start off in the homeland and then they roam the battlefield as they get closer to your opponent, the crafts come out at certain points. The Viking ships only come out when you're attacking on a coastal land, while the siege towers only come out when you're attacking the fortress. So the fortress, the Viking fortress, or other civilizations that will be coming up, and I'll explain that in a second. Now, the third card is a harvest card. Now, there's a point system. If you look at the map on the Kickstarter, there's a row of numbers, 1 through 20. Everyone starts off with 10 harvest points. Every time you move your characters, you actually lose a harvest point. So all during this game, you're losing your harvest points. Well, you have harvest cards that are found in your deck that you pull out. You put them in the 3 cards in your hand, and when you need them, you pull them out, and it will replenish your harvest. And then there's a max of 20 harvest cards, or 20 harvest points that you can get to. Now, those are the 3 cards that you can draw. So say you have 3 cards in your hand, and you have a character. You have a Viking berserker. You're going to be the Vikings. You pull that out, you put it in the fortress. Now, each turn you're allowed to move twice. I can move that individual up to another position, and it's better if you could see the map. Each territory, they're the land cards, the cards that are on in between the game. The homeland is a terrain, and then there are 7 terrains between your homeland and your opponent's homeland, which are all face down. And so you don't know what the terrain is, because the terrain might hurt you and might help you.
Okay, so per se somebody's looking at, sorry, Zach, per se somebody's looking at the board. I'm looking at the board on Kickstarter right now, I think. So there's different spots that look like they can hold a card. So you have, if I understand correctly, you have face down cards on there with different terrains. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah, so those cards, when you land on them, they'll flip right side up. So you'll actually be able to see what terrain you landed on.
Oh, okay, awesome. And then what goes on from there?
Okay, so you're allowed to move twice per turn. If you decide to leave your Viking berserker in your homeland, and then you play either another Viking berserker, or maybe the scout, which is basically the comparable to the knight. You play the scout, then those 2 can move together and still only lose 1 harvest. So either you move an individual character by itself, or you move them together and you still only lose 1 harvest. So you're basically moving your army up to these new terrains. And again, every time you land on a terrain that's undiscovered, you flip it over and you'll see the penalty or the bonus that comes with landing on that terrain. Now, as you get closer to your opponent, multiple turns are going to happen. Your opponent's going to get closer to you. You're going to get closer to your opponent. Each time you move up, if you move into an occupied territory, occupied terrain, basically where your opponent already has its characters, a battle will ensue. And so automatically, as soon as you land in there, you cannot withdraw your people. You're automatically in a battle. Now, when you battle, the attacker there's 2 numbers at the bottom right-hand corner, much like Yu-Gi-Oh! It's attack points and defense points. So in this, there's actually a scorecard. The scorecard tells you all the points that you have to add up. There are, when you're counting up your attack, you count up your strength points, your attack strength points. That's the first one. The terrain, so each terrain can give you a benefit for preferring that terrain. And on the cards, like on the Viking cards or the Knights cards, they'll actually say which terrain they actually prefer. And if they prefer the terrain that you're battling on, you actually get extra points for that. Now, another component that I did not mention yet is called the situation cards. Situation cards can be either one of 2 things. One, it could be a weather pattern. Every turn there's a new weather, the weather changes throughout the whole game. Or 2, there's an illness that will infect the land. And I'll go through both those really fast. Weather, basically you could have like anything from clear skies to extreme hail, and they'll help or hinder you depending on your preference. So just like the Knights or the Vikings have a preference on your terrain, they also have a preference of what kind of weather they like. The Knights like clear skies, while the Vikings like extreme weather, such as hail or heavy storms. And so during those times, they'll actually get increased strength, and the Knights would get decreased strength in time of like hail or such. The other card that you could pull in the situation cards are illness cards. Illness could be like leprosy or the plague. And one person from each group, will become infected. That person, if he stays with the army, will infect the rest of their army, the ones that are in the same terrain as them. So they have to leave that group. Only way to heal those diseases or those illnesses are either 1, going back to your homeland. In your homeland, no one can get infected. 2, to find the mountain monastery, which is one of the terrains. It's the bonus of the terrain. And then 3, for the Vikings, you have the Gothi. The Gothi was the spiritual leader of the Viking armies. And so the Gothi, in this one, is a woman, and she will heal anyone that's ill, as long as she's in the same terrain as them. So as you move up, you're going to find your opponent, and you're going to add these points up between attack points, weather points, terrain points, and then illness. And then you add up the total, and then you have the dice. So this is where you get to roll the dice, if you want to roll dice or use a dice card. And the number on there, that roll, gives you a little added bonus towards your attack or towards your defense. And whoever has the highest points, after calculating all those, they're the winners of that battle. And the loser has to lose one of their characters to the discard pile. And because you're allowed to move twice per turn, every time you move into that land, you'll lose another battle ensues. So you can actually battle twice per turn.
Okay, awesome. And how do you determine the winner? I guess the last man standing, or do you have to get their king, or how does that look?
Yep, you have to conquer their fortress. So the first person to conquer a fortress wins the game. So all the opponent's cards could be attacking your fortress or your homeland, and then you go over and attack their homeland and take over their homeland. You're the winner.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. Now, you sound like you might be a little biased, seeing how your son and you kind of developed it and whatnot. But per se, a lot of times, like in the community, since I've been here doing interviews for the last just over a year or whatnot, 150 plus interviews. A lot of times, people on the Kickstarters, a lot of them have like reviews from other people, but it seems like you might have done something different than I've ever seen before. What can you tell us about the people reviewing it, or what's going on with that?
Yep. So we did 2 types of reviews. The first thing we did is we wanted to make sure that the people that were testing out our game were vested in the game. So we actually went out to other customers of Historical Conquest and asked them if they wanted to buy the game. We introduced it. We didn't show them anything of the game. Minus gave them a brief overview and said, would you like to pre-order the game? And we had 60 people sign up. Well, we thought we we need people to beta test it that are vested in the game, that want the best thing for the game, want to create this perfect game or near perfect game. And that's going to be the people that already pre-ordered it. They're vested in the game. They've already put the money down. They know that they trust me because they've purchased from me before. And so they want to be able to, if I gave them the game, the prototype, I know that they would give me a good critique of the game, work out a lot of the bugs that were in there or any of the bugs that were in there, and we'd be able to produce the best game possible. So out of those 60, every one of those pre-orders are now beta testing the game. So they're actually getting sets of them. So we give them to a first set of people. And then after a week of them playing the game and testing it and going through our private Facebook beta test group, then they pass it on to the next group. And they're actually paying their own money to ship it to these next people because they want more people to be part of this, more people to be able to experience it and give their ideas and give their responses. And so over this time, we have had rave reviews. I can actually pull right now. This is one of the reviews that we're going to be putting in, or one of the sets of reviews that we're going to be putting on our Kickstarter. We have not done that yet because we just asked them. We asked them to give us a critique of what they thought of the game. And so we're taking those reviews. We're going to put them onto the Facebook page, or the Kickstarter page. And then we're also sending prototypes out to, we want to work out all the bugs possible before sending them up to Failroad Express. Is a great reviewer of games. They do it on YouTube, and they did a great job for us back with Historical Conquest. Now they're going to be able to do it with Totally Medieval. And then a lot of people you guys know Undead Viking. He's really big in the game review circuit, and he's going to be reviewing it as well. And the thing that's really cool about him is he loves games. He's done 1,000 different reviews, but his daughter actually likes the aspect of education infused into the games. And so she's really good when it comes to doing the reviews with him.
Okay, awesome. I didn't know that, so that's cool. So, yeah, this is kind of different. Is that what goes behind I don't remember how many days, was it a 45-day campaign you chose?
Yes.
Is that part of the science behind the 45 days instead of like a shorter campaign like everybody seems to be doing nowadays?
Yep, so there's a lot of parts to that. We haven't done the big push yet for the Kickstarter when it comes to marketing and getting things out. We also, funny enough, we actually almost hurt ourselves to one extent by doing the pre-orders. So most games that are out there, they don't do the pre-orders. And so all the people that want to play the game or want to buy the game, they're biting at the bit just to get in the early bird special or to buy the game off Kickstarter. Well, we tapped as many people as possible. I mean, we were asking them multiple times if they were interested in doing pre-ordering the Totally Medieval game. And so those 60s would probably been 60 that would have ordered from us on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I was going to say there goes 60 of your backers. Exactly.
So that was one of our hangups, that we didn't really think about that part. But the whole idea behind the beta testing was so essential, we had to do that. And so, yes, the whole holding off a little bit, that's why we have a few 2 weeks extra built into there before we get to our 30 days when the big marketing push starts, because that's where we get the reviewers in. We have all the bugs worked out. And so we'll see how it works. I mean, it might hurt us a lot, but at the same time, it might help us. And so this is a new out of the box thinking when it comes to Kickstarter and trying to push it this way.
Yeah, for sure. So that's interesting. Yeah, that's awesome. So that's kind of interesting. So what was I going to say? In regards to this, when will the reviews start hitting the Kickstarter page so people listening can see those?
They should start about 30 days in. So we have about 11 days left before we do our big marketing push and the reviews come in.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. So that's pretty cool. Now, per se, somebody did. I don't know that why they would. Just myself listening to you, I can't help but if I had the money in my wallet, I would go back it right now. But per se, somebody fell asleep listening. It wouldn't be because of you or your great game. It'd be because of me and my podcast. What we're starting the second. Wait, no, we're 7/14. We're almost starting the third week of July, and let me see here really quick. Pull the number for you. Sorry, I should have had this ready to go. But yeah, we're starting about to start the third week of July, and since the first of the year, here on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. Let's see, it's not going. Let's see. Sorry, give me 1 second. Let's see. Oh, I know what I got to do. Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, so since the first of the year, we've already recorded or released 113 episodes since the first of the year. So sometimes people get a little tired of hearing me drone on and on, so they snooze or whatnot, and that's neither been confirmed nor denied. So I'm just going to continue to roll with it until some of the fans tell me otherwise. But suddenly they're jolted awake, Zach, so they don't hit the oncoming traffic, and you have their full attention now. What's the elevator pitch? Why should they take a chance on Totally Medieval, especially with all the other great games that are currently on the Kickstarters?
Oh, there are thousands of games out there, and every week there's new ones that are coming up. And you know what? Truthfully, there are a lot of good games out there. The thing that we're doing is we're trying to change the whole culture in the education system. A lot of people have seen the problems that are coming up right now when it comes to the engineering that comes out of India or China or all these other places. Our education system, and yes, I'm going off on the educational part, the education system of America is really failing us. And so we are different than everybody else. So by backing Totally Medieval, you're actually supporting a new wave when it comes to our education system. And what's really great about what we're doing is we're getting kids excited and interested in games again at a young age. And so as they grow up, they're going to buy these other games that are out there. So everybody, this is, again, biased, but everyone should be excited about backing something like Totally Medieval for the fact that we're bringing kids from the schools. They're getting into games. And when they get home, they're going to be even more into games. Because there's a lot of kids that they don't even touch games anymore. They don't see games. They're not introduced to them by their parents. We're bringing it into the schooling realm and getting kids excited about doing these type of things. And so this is a new boom for the industry. We are trying to bring kids back into gaming and seeing the great benefits that come from it. It's so much better. And I mean nothing against video games. I enjoy some. But physical games are so much more beneficial to the mind process and the growth and development of a person than any video game is. And so, again, like I was saying, I do brain studies on the side. It's one of my niche research that I do. But the physical game is impertinent when it comes to development of a student or a young person's mind. And getting kids into physical games is a new boom when it comes to helping them, whether it's our games or whether it's a regular physical game. It's a big boom when it comes to getting them strategically minded, thinking about the future. Even the game of chess, hundreds of years old, and thousands of years old. The game of chess is a game that teaches strategy, teaches thinking forward, and yet chess and strategy is not part of the education system these days. If anything, the education system was made to make us be robots and work in factories. And that whole part has changed. We are now going into the 21st century of everything. We're going into the 22nd century, the 23rd century. Technology is booming these days, and that's not going to happen with public school education and factory-minded education systems. So bringing in those games, bringing in the physical education, physical aspect or physical games is a huge, it will be a huge benefit for every person that picks up a physical game. And we're just one that's bringing it into the schooling system and helping the kids, or helping the students retain the information that they're learning a lot faster and having them enjoy every minute of it instead of droning through another lecture, another assessment, like a test, or repetition, another boring repetition. That's my pitch. I want to get everybody excited.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah. So, so make sure you go at least check out the Kickstarter link. We'll make sure we leave all the links in the show notes so people don't have to necessarily type them in. They can just click on the link and see what it's all about. I'd really recommend watching the video. And if they back this, is there options to get those dice cards or the cards you talked of?
Yeah, actually, yes, there are. When we were doing the Historical Conquest Kickstarter, another thing that we found was that a lot of people, as I mentioned before, they want to play games that take them out of reality, let them relax and get away from schooling and education. And so people would actually comment that, oh, it has to do with history, don't want to touch it. So we actually took the dice card aspect out of it. So we're actually working on whether we want to put it in there or if we want to create a second Kickstarter just for the dice cards, so that the educational aspect could be on one of them, while the fun and gaming and getting out of reality and relaxing, which is a total positive. Don't get me wrong, that could be something totally separate. And so it actually separates the two aspects. That's something we're not 100% on, just because we don't want to scare people away for thinking that, oh, it's all about math. But at the same time, we want to get that out because the dice cards are a huge thing when it comes to any student just trying to find a way to enjoy math. Sometimes it's really boring.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Yeah. So that makes sense. You had to conform to the gamers, the people that are actually back in the Kickstarters, but that where you might come out with the dice system later. So that's awesome. Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. Just you talking about it, I'm really excited about the whole thing. It sounds awesome. So, going back to sorry to focus too much on, I know this is for gamers or whatnot, but going back to the whole school thing, have you guys been going into different schools or how's that go down?
Okay. So this is a really cool thing. And, we are, okay. So have you ever heard of, the chess club, Young Rembrandts, School of Rock, their after school activities?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So they have a huge niche when it comes to getting kids excited about their different subjects or activities. We are actually teaming up around the US right now to create the first world or nationwide and hopefully worldwide gaming club. So like there's a lot of people that try to start up gaming clubs. There's some that are semi-successful. We're actually creating the first gaming club and being able to get that out to all around the United States. We're actually teaming up with other franchises of the chess club who already have the niche in there. And we're also working with other gaming manufacturers to produce games to bring to these clubs. So you don't just pick up a game of Risk or the game of Monopoly and play at these game clubs. You pick up a game that has some sort of educational background to it, and you're able to learn it, play with it. And then unlike the chess club or unlike Young Rembrandts, where you basically, when you're done with your 6 weeks, you walk away with nothing. With us, you actually walk away with a 2-player set. And the interesting thing is the 2-player set of whether it's Historical Conquest, Totally Medieval, or any of these other games that are out there are usually about $60 to $70. Well, the tuition for the 6 weeks is actually $60 to $70. So you're going to the 6-week club and you're either getting the club for free or you're getting the game for free and you're paying for the other one.
Oh, wow. How does that, does that make, that's pretty cool. Does that make sense business-wise, though? Or either way, that's pretty cool to be able to give them the game or they can go ahead and do the games. That's awesome.
Actually, it makes a lot of sense. So you know how I told you, like with Totally Medieval, there's 5 phases in it?
Yeah, what are those? You talked about the first phase, playing the first phase.
So the next phase is actually a cooperative game. So right now it's competitive Vikings versus Knights. Actually, the second phase is where we bring in other civilizations. Sorry, I forgot about that one. So phase 2 is we bring in samurai, we bring in Mongolians, and other civilizations around Egyptians, Greeks, things like that. That's phase 2. Phase 3 is where we bring in the cooperative aspect, where we bring in dragons or other creatures, depending on which expansion you get. And then those dragons will be a cooperative where you and your opponent are fighting the dragons, which is actually controlled. The function of the dragons is actually controlled by the game. So you don't control it. You don't get to choose for it. It chooses for itself. And so the dragons come out, and both sides compete against the dragons. As soon as you kill off the dragons, then it becomes a competitive game again, and you start fighting each other, whoever's left over. So at the same time that the dragons are coming after you, you could actually cross your truce with your opponent and start attacking them. Most likely, though, you start attacking your opponent, you start fighting with each other, the dragons are going to wipe you out. So that's phase 3. Phase 4 is we actually bring in the mythological, and fantasy. So anything from Lord of the Rings, basically, elves, orcs, the dwarfs, all fantasy will be able to be brought in, zombies or such. But at the same time, when we get the mythological, then you'll be able to play with different gods, the Norse gods, the Greek gods, the Egyptians, and such. But what's really cool about all of these groups is that the same, they're broken down basically the same way that the Vikings and the Knights are. You could take all the pieces off of all the dragons and play them on a game of chess. So they're all broken down into the same one king, one queen, and such in each of the games, or each of the expansions. So you bring them on, they have the same kind of components, you're able to compete against your opponent with them. And then if you just want to use the figures for your chess, to learn chess, you can learn that as well. So, and then the 5th one is actually a secret. We're not divulging that one yet. We have to have some sort of mystery in it, right?
For sure, yeah. Awesome. Now, Zach, are you on any other podcast talking about this?
I actually have a few more interviews that are being set up. See, this is the problem with what also we did was we waited till the last minute on getting our marketing out. We wanted to push it to the 30th. We had been talking over a while on Facebook, and so I thought I'd do this interview first, basically so I can gauge how I want to talk about Totally Medieval. So you're going to be the first podcast with this.
So I can go ahead and say, you heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief.
There you go.
Oh, good. I always like to say that for some reason.
Yep, and then on the 30th is when we come out with the other ones.
Okay, so I can release this before the 30th and then tell everybody you heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief?
You got it.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. Thank you. Yeah, so that's awesome. Is all the other stuff still in development, I'd imagine? So, like, if somebody's listening right now, later on down the road, they might be able to get their kids into these gaming clubs, or how's that going down?
Yep. So we should have them by the beginning of next year. The thought process behind the gaming club is we have people already set up all around the U.S. With Historical Conquest, we actually created a system very similar, but it's more based around homeschooling. And we have 60 or so tournaments all around the U.S. going on every month. But with Totally Medieval and with the game club, we actually have it so that before we can start up the game club itself, we have to get the 2-player boxes for Totally Medieval and the 2-player boxes for Historical Conquest. And so when we get those games, the actual produced 2-player box, that's when we go to the game club and we get them started. So it looks like right now we have a delivery date of December. It's December 5th when it should be able to be to everyone. And actually, we might have been able to cut down on some of that delivery date, so it actually might come out earlier than that. As soon as that comes out, then we can start going out for all the game clubs all across the U.S. And we've got right now we've already prototyped the game club in the Kansas City area, and it was a great success. But we had to hold off because we didn't have these boxes. So we tested out, we're ready. We have partners coming up all around the U.S. to get them started. And come January of next year, they'll be hitting all over the place. And the cool thing is that you can actually sign up with us. There'll be more information on that later on, but you'll be able to sign up with us to host your own after-school activities, game clubs, all across the U.S. as well, in your own local areas and in your schools.
Okay, so mine is coming there to Missouri to stalk you and find out about that. How would they go about finding out about that? Or, well, I don't know if you ever said, what's the name of your gaming company, Zach?
It's the Genius Game Club. We actually have a website for it, and it actually says coming soon on the site. But you can give us your contact information, or you can keep track of that site. Probably better to just give us your information so we can tell you exactly when it comes out. But as soon as that comes out, we'll contact you and give you all the information and let you start it in your local areas with all the processes and procedures. That's one of the things that we're working on right now, is perfecting the processes in order to, one, get your schools to allow you to host, and then two, to find people. Because sometimes it's hard to get those groups together. But through our processes, you shouldn't have a problem with it.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, so that's awesome.
Yeah, and if you want, I can actually come back later on when we get those the game clubs going and talk to you more about that.
Oh yeah, I don't see why not. That'd be awesome. I would like that. So that's cool. Now, I don't know if you've got a chance to listen to any of our podcasts. If you haven't, that's okay.
No, I'm subscribed to your podcast.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. So maybe you're prepared, maybe not. I don't know. But I know we were talking so much about getting away from the apps, but the next portion of the podcast is actually called Adventures in Application Acquisition, where we talk about an app, be it for your cell phone, your tablet, your computer, or your video game. And it doesn't even necessarily have to do with tabletop board gaming or history or anything like that. It can deal with anything that you use an app for. Is there an app you use a lot of, even in game creation or anything, Zach, that we can talk about for a moment?
Well, actually, I'm somewhat old school and basic. The number one app that I use on my phone is actually my podcast app. And I listen to podcasts all different types, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship and self wellness, brain science, those type of things. It's the one I use constantly, and it's actually the one that comes on your iPhone. And I guess there's all different ones for Android and such. But that's the number one that I use when it comes to getting more information, continually to learn about my topic, whether it's gaming, whether it's entrepreneurship, or whether it's brain science. And then another one that, if I can give a second one.
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, I don't see why not.
The second one is actually one called Calm. So I like I said, with gaming, one of the great benefits of gaming when it comes to physical or video games is actually the fact of being able to relax and get out of reality. Your brain needs a way of de-stressing after a long day. And a lot of people will pick up an app just to get rid of some of those things. But every time I find myself stressed out or having issues, I actually go to a meditation app, which helps me get out of reality, calm my heart, calm my soul inside. But the truth is that a lot of games can actually do that for you, as long as you watch how your body feels when you use those games. The best thing for your body, like at the end of the day, is to try to calm yourself down before you go to sleep. Because playing video games up until the time that you fall asleep, you won't get the restful sleep that you need. Your brain will constantly be working still as it tries to calm down. So using calming games and then being able to shut it off near the end, right before you go to bed, shut off a little bit while before, you're able to calm your brain, your heart, your soul, and get ready for sleep. And that way you can actually get a more restful sleep. So do whatever you want. Just, sorry, I don't mean to preach or anything like this, but try to get off your screens at least a half hour before you go to bed. Because, or have you seen how the iPhone changes color at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think isn't there an option to? I don't know if I've seen how it changes. I always just turn the brightness down, but I believe there's like a moon. You can click the little moon on there, and I think it'll give you a different color, doesn't it?
Yeah. Have you ever wondered why that is?
My wife talks about it. It's some kind of, it's better for the eyes or something. I don't know. It kind of helps get ready for it, like you talked to it a little bit.
Yeah. It's actually the blue light that's in your screens. It actually excites the mind. It keeps it going, keeps it racing. So whether you're on your app or your phone or you're on a screen or you're watching TV, there's a blue light that's emitted. And so Apple and Android and other programs have now implemented a way of dimming that blue light down, which allows you to get more restful sleep. And so, yeah, so anything that allows your mind to calm down before you go to bed will give you a lot more restful sleep and allow you to get to the place that you want to be so that the next day you'll be fully rested. Because if you keep your mind excited, and there's other parts of it, but I won't bore you with all the other signs of it. But if you are able to calm your mind beforehand, you're going to have a better day the next day, almost guaranteed.
So maybe I shouldn't stay up so late playing Tetris on my iPhone?
Exactly.
Oh, boy. That's not good, but it's probably a good idea, though.
Well, here's a good thing. I mean, even picking up a board game and playing that up until the time you go to sleep is probably better for you than any screen. Though even those type of things, it still excites your mind. And so you need to be able to calm your mind down before you go to bed. So I know a lot of people don't like doing this. I'm not the biggest reader either, but picking up a book could be the best way of getting yourself ready to sleep, because either you're going to calm your mind or you're going to fall asleep while reading. So either way, it calms your mind.
Yeah, I do that all the time. My wife has to tell me to put it away before it clonks me on the forehead.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. So going back to your two apps really quickly, though, do you have, maybe you could give us it sounds like you listen to all kinds of podcasts. What are the top 5, would you say, your go-to podcasts?
Okay, so top 5. Let's see. I'm opening my podcast right now. So let's see. For gaming, I have to say it is yours, actually.
Oh, really? You're just kind of sucking up to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy. Now we know.
Yeah, there you go. But I actually listened to, have you ever heard of Tony Robbins?
Yeah, I listened to Cliff Ravenscraft, who used to be the podcast Anther Man. He talks a lot about Tony Robbins, but I've never really listened to any of his stuff, though.
Yeah, I've actually gone through different spurts of different things. Like I'll turn off a whole bunch of podcasts and start listening to all ones of one theme. And then I'll turn those off and do another theme at different times. Right now I'm in entrepreneurship and self-awareness podcasts. And after a while I'll get bored of those and I'll turn on more gaming ones. So as of right now, the only ones that I can bring up here on my phone right now are all like Business Wars, Jordan Harbinger. So yeah, they're business ones.
Okay, that's probably nothing they want to hear about here, but I recommend, if you want, I'd recommend listening to Cliff Ravenscraft. He's like, yeah, it's wow. He used to be, he's trained lots of people to do podcasting, but he's recently, within the last year and a half, 2 years, gone over to the whole entrepreneurship and kind of like self-help like Tony Robbins and whatnot. Hey,
here's one that's not business-wise, but is actually got me really interested. Now I'm already interested in history because of Historical Conquest, but it's got a lot of other people. It's I think it's History on Fire, and he does this podcast of basically making it so that while you're listening to history, it's all audio, and he's making it. I don't know. He's just making it exciting to be able to listen to, and different aspects that you would never really think about when you're talking about history. But if you're someone that doesn't really like history or, it's really boring, that's actually one that would probably get you excited about it in the podcast realm. Oh, cool. I'll have to check it out. So another app was called Calm. Is that what you said? Or what was it called? Calm. So it's basically a meditation app. It's not big into meditation, yoga, those type of things. It's more meditation as in white noise and teaching you how to breathe and getting you out of your stressful state. Like I'll be done with work and I'll have my mind racing and have all the stress from anything from my employees to debts that are on hand or tasks that I have to do. I sit there for 5 minutes listening to that, and it's like almost a new recharge. Or for instance, like my daughter has a little bit of anxiety. So we turn on the app and she's able to sit in my room, just sprawled out, just relaxing. And 5 minutes later, she's totally new. And she's able to just release all that stress that's built up inside of her.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. So if you own the rights to either the Calm app, well, I guess both of them. If you own the rights to the Calm app and as well as the iPhone's podcast app, what would be one thing you would do to fix them or make them better, would you say, Zach?
Oh, let's see. With podcasts, I'd have a better way of searching out the best podcasts. Like right now they have a system of putting podcasts up there that, I don't know, it's not the way I would do it when it comes to putting the best. I think it would be more on the recommendations. The way that I've been told is the way that they pick the top podcasts are actually through algorithms. And I think it just needs to come out from the comments of the people that listen to them and being able to read a lot more of their comments on there to find the best one. When it comes to Calm, you know what? Making it for free. There are aspects of it. Well, the meditation part is free, but there's a lot of things that you have to unlock. You have to pay for every month to get to. And I really wish I could actually go into them because it's a monthly and it's just more debt I don't need on my head. So.
Well, there you go. Yeah, we like to make a green podcast around here. So anybody dealing with the development of either the podcast app for the iPhones or iOS devices or anybody in development of the Calm app is ever listening, you heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, what Zack, the creator of Historical Conquest and the developer of Totally Medieval, the epic adventure that's currently on Kickstarter, would do to fix them or make them better. So you heard it here first. But we don't want to keep you all night. So mine is coming there to Missouri. I know we talked about it a little bit, but is that the best website to find you on where they can find out about the gaming clubs, or where's the best way to find out about everything that you have going on, Zach?
Everything. I'll actually mention like everything through our Historical Conquest Facebook page. So if you ever want to get everything, every aspect, we usually show it there first before we go out to Total Medieval or such. In the next, or go to if you want to know about the gaming club, go to geniusgameclub.com and fill out, just put in your email address. And as soon as we get the games in and the process and procedures put together, we'll be able to give you the information that you need in order to start your own game club and make it effective and also a moneymaker for you, because you can actually make money on the side by doing that.
Okay, awesome. And the Facebook page you talked of, looks like I'm going to your regular page. Is it Historical Conquest or is it the Total Medieval, or which one is it? Totally Medieval, or which one is it? Or is it something completely?
The main one where I put all my information through is Historical Conquest. So it'd be basically on Facebook. All you have to do is Google or search out Historical Conquest, and we're the top one there.
Okay, we'll make sure we leave the links in the show notes or whatnot, so they can go ahead and click that. Keep up to you.
Yep, Historical Conquest is number one. You can see all our reviews and such. Or Totally Medieval, type it in there, and it'll pop right up. It's also the first one on the search bar.
Okay, awesome. And we'll leave all the links in the show notes or whatnot. Yeah, but like I said, we don't want to keep you all night, but we really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Release to talk all about this and everything you have going on, Zach.
Well, I appreciate your time and also for putting out these podcasts. It's great to be able to listen to all these different games and thoughts when it comes in the gaming world.
Oh, yeah, and I don't get the opportunity too much because not too many people come on and tell me that they listen. But maybe we can do that like we did with the apps. If you have a minute, do you have another minute or so? Okay, awesome. Don't want to keep you all night. So if you own the rights to Getting Geeky with Game Relief, what would be one thing you would do to fix it, or what do you think we can do as you're a listener or whatnot? What can we do to make it better? Do you think, Zach?
Oh, this one I wasn't thinking about. Oh wow, that's a good question. Now you got me on the spot, and you got me late at night. So I would say getting more. So the interviewers, it would be really nice to get people on that talk about the actual development, the thought process between actually game development. I have a lot of youth that I talk to. Everybody, not everybody, maybe 70% of youth come up with their own game at some point in their life. And it would be really beneficial, I think, to a lot of the viewers, or the listeners, because I'm guessing a lot of listeners listen to that, is actually teaching about creation of games and more of how to get it out there. Because there's a lot more, and I'm talking about more the small intricacies of it in the game development world, bringing more game developers on how to develop a game and not just here's my game and I'd like to promote it like what I'm doing.
So awesome. Yeah, so that's awesome. Yeah, so I'll start asking more questions about the development and whatnot. Starting pretty soon here, hopefully, I'm not sure exactly when, but hopefully pretty soon here, I'm going to be starting a new segment with Sky Carlisle of Board Game Websites, and we're going to be talking about, it's going to be short episodes in which we're going to talk about how to launch a game or whatnot, like pre, and during, and post Kickstarter. So if anybody's interested in that, but yeah, I don't want to keep you all night, but we really appreciate you coming on the show tonight, Zach.
Well, I would love to hear some of those of the pre, and I mean even pre of getting into the why creating and what to create. I would love to hear some of those podcasts. So I'll keep listening.
Okay, awesome. And they might come out, I don't know if you're subscribed or not, but they may come out beforehand to email subscribers, and you can do that by going over to our website, which is GameReliefGo.com, kind of like Pokemon Go, but Game Relief Go. And we'll let you go so you can get some sleep, Zach.
Thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, me too.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.